Hey folks, this is Casey and I'm One Mellow Marigold. We're out here on a rockin' gorgeous day. Gosh, it feels like fall already. I'm standing in front of our gifted raised bed that we got from Soil Allen. This thing has been amazing all summer. I am so grateful. I've had the black beans growing in here as well as the cucumbers up on the trellis. The cucumbers are done for this season. The black beans are done for this season, and it's time to pull them and start to get those bean pods dry. So that's what we're doing today. We're harvesting black beans. It's really super duper simple. We're gonna yank them out, we're gonna hang them up and let them dry, and we'll show you what the seed pods look like when they're ready. Okay, some folks like to grow green beans, for example, wax beans, yellow beans, pole beans, lots of beans for fresh eating. Those are all great. It's not a personal favorite of mine. I really love dried beans. In particular, black beans are my absolute favorite. I could cook with them every single day of the year if I wanted to. And now I know for some of you, you think, beans are so cheap. You can just buy them in the store. No big deal, right? Yeah, I mean, you're right. But we're out here looking to be a little bit more self-sustainable, and if there's something I don't have to buy wrapped up in plastic in a grocery store that I can just produce on my own, rock on. In addition, beans are a great nitrogen fixer. So these beans just growing on their own inside this raised bed, they're refertilizing the soil to get it ready for great growth next season. So it's a win-win for everybody. And you don't really have to do any harvesting. You don't have to keep pulling as you go throughout the year. Mostly, you're just waiting for the bean plants to die so you can dry out the pods and go from there. I moved over to the side here. We're just going to start pulling plants. This is not rocket science. This is the easiest part of the whole job. Let's go. Again, they're nice and white in color. They're dying off, but they're not totally dry yet, but we'll take care of that. Now, as you're going through, much like this one, you might find some that have been attacked by moisture, mold, a fungus, what have you. And that's okay. I just leave them. I just let them go, especially if I'm going to grow beans in this place next year. You can also just throw it in your compost pile. But before you go ahead and dry them, take a good peek at the plants you're drying. Just make sure that they're healthy. Okay, there are a million ways you can dry out your beans. This is just the way I do it. Essentially, what you're really trying to do is get them to a place where they can sort of hang loose and free, where there's going to be unrestricted airflow and where there's not going to be a lot of moisture, because even though they're not growing anymore, moisture could still get caught and build up in the stems and kind of ruin the beans. So what I do is I have a ton of these. You guys might too. Tomato cages. Remember when we all used to use these with abandon? I got a whole bunch that I don't use anymore, and these are perfect for resting the beans on. So what I do is I take one of these and I grab, 3, 4, 5 plants. And all we're really doing is sort of hanging, draping the plant over the top spine so that they sort of cascade down to dry. And it's perfect because the tunnel creates space for airflow. And if you're weaving in a couple of couple of plants together, they help support each other around the cage. So kind of stick that in there so it holds a little bit. And maybe stick one this way. Let's do it that way. There we go. And that's it. That's it. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on my porch again so it stays covered and protected from the rain but still gets some nice airflow. You may, if it's a windy place, you may want to just weight it down with a couple of rocks or something like that. You can certainly add a few more, but again, just make sure you're leaving space for air. Bing, bang, boom. There you go. 6 cages is what it took for me to pull all of that out. Last but not least, we got to separate the beans from the pods and get them stored up, right? So depending on how dry the beans are when you pull the plants, it might take 2 weeks or so for the plants that we just hung up to get nice and brittle and dry. So let it take the time it needs to take, because they really should be very, very dry, very hard and crunchy. You should almost hear them rattle when you shake it around in there, okay? So if you have fidgeters in the house, if you have folks like me in the house that maybe sometimes just need a easy focused activity, haha, this is a winner, man. There is nothing I love more than having like a big old pot of beans and a great movie on, and I can just sit and peel and plink them into the jar, and it's just super satisfying. So I like to wait till I have a whole lot dry, but this is what I do. I just want you to know that Oliver is under the table right now. You might see him peep around, desperately trying to get me to throw his Frisbee. Poor Betty. Okay, so I grabbed a couple of pods that are ready to go just to use for example. Again, they should be hard, crackly, and you should hear them rattle in there a little bit, okay? This is a jar of beans that I had left over from last year. Beans dried and just stuck in a jar will last you forever. Forever. And honestly, I just really love the idea of having lots of dried beans on hand because it's shelf stable without having to use any additional energy. You don't have to freeze them. You don't have to dehydrate them any further. You don't have to can them or anything. You just stick them in a jar, put them on your shelf, and they're going to last forever. And then when I get to canning season, I look in the pantry for how many beans I have left still in a jar, and I take those and I do can them up for nice convenience meals. So I made red beans for red beans and rice. I made baked beans from some of the last year's beans that I didn't use. So you can still use them in fun, cool ways later, but you don't have to. You can keep them like this forever. Okay, so I got just a little bitty jar for our little bitty couple of pea pods. And let me get this off. There we go. Okay. We're going to pop this baby open, and we're going to just let the seeds fall out onto the ground, apparently, onto a paper towel. Now, as you feel the beans that you just pulled out kind of dent your thumb in, and it's probably still going to make a little crease, right? So at this stage, this bean is really dry. There's no damp to it. It's very smooth and very hard. There still might be just a tiny bit of moisture. So I vote that you get yourself a cookie sheet and you lay out a bunch of paper towel and you open up the pods, let the beans fall onto the paper towels, and then let them sit on the paper towels for just a couple of more days before you put them in a jar. That way, you're absolutely making sure they're dry as dry can be before you put them away for storage. Yes, buddy, I see you down there. Look at that. And of course, the shells can just go right into your compost. Feed that soil. Look at that. Isn't that fun? That's just fun. This is satisfying. All right. Right here, before we move away from this, I am going to we're going to use this little one as an example. There's just a tiny bit of rot on the shell. And this bean, as it came out, has just a tiny bit of fungus on it. We're not going to put this in with the rest of the dry beans. We're going to chuck it. Whoop! There we go. So keep an eye out just in case you find a little bit of something on what you pull. Look at that. Look at that. Gorgeous. That's just it's so satisfying. And that's it. So we would let the beans sit out on a paper towel for a couple of days. Then we put them right in our jar, throw them on the shelf, wait to cook them up, whatever you want to do. And just like that, we're all done. We are all done. So easy. Beans are so easy. I love it and super satisfying. Time check, all told, filming and everything, I've been out here for 50 minutes. That's it. You just yank the plants out of the ground. You set them on a rack to dry. You check for a little mold, little fungus, what have you. When the pods are nice and crispy and ready, you pop them out, dry them, and throw them in a jar. Bing, bang, boom. Food. It's awesome. Beans are easy to grow. You don't have to try hard to plant them. They almost always germinate. Really highly nutritious. They are nitrogen fixers. They will grow just damn near anywhere. I think they're just a great food to add to your garden if you don't already. That's all I got for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure do love you and your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do so. And if you like to grow dried beans, comment below. Let me know what types of varieties you grow and if you have any other tips and tricks you'd like to share. Love you guys so much. As always, I'm going to see you on the next one. Bye.